Hey everyone, how's it going? Eric here, and today I want to talk about that Indie Direct. Wow, coming out of the gate with Cuphead and then finishing off with the Cadence of Hyrule. Like, whoa, that blew me away. And then the dog got bit on the neck and I kind of felt sad for a little while. But yeah, we started it on a really good note and we ended on like just frothing at the mouth excitement. Coming out of this Direct, I kind of had the choice to be like, do I want to talk about Cuphead, which I haven't played, but seems really interesting, and so I don't feel like I do much justice for, or do I want to talk about Cadence of Hyrule, which I have played Crypt of the NecroDancer, and I'm like, wow, this looks good. So as you can tell, today we're talking about Cadence of Hyrule, and so there's a few things I kind of want to go over here, but first of all, I just want to say how absolutely amazed I am that this is a thing in the first place. This is an indie developer getting like really good control over the Zelda franchise. That's kind of amazing. According to a chat that the devs had with IGN, apparently they presented this to Nintendo and they just wanted it to be like a DLC pack that maybe had a character or just some small influence in there. And Nintendo were pretty happy with it. And then because communications kind of went back and forth for a while, the project kind of grew into what it is, into like a full-blown game, which is really amazing and really shows that how far Nintendo has come as far as like just lending their name out to not just even just the big names anymore, just little indie names. That's amazing. All right, well, let's get into this. So for those of you who don't know, Crypt of the NecroDancer, which this game is kind of a semi-sequel for, I guess you could call it. Basically, what that game is a rhythm tactics game. Yeah, I guess that's what it is, a rhythm tactics game. So basically there's a song going in the background, and every time the music goes, you've got to move, whether it be a directional input or just an attack. Now for timing your inputs correctly, you get rewarded. I forget exactly what the rewards were. I think you just like got a multiplier which gave you more money and drops and things like that. Which of course the money was really important because without the money, you weren't gonna be able to buy anything, which means you weren't gonna be able to upgrade your character, which is getting a little bit too deep into it, but you get the idea. Also, the game was randomly generated, which meant that every time that you played, it was like, I guess what some people call a roguelite these days. So you do a playthrough, you go into it, and then your run through of that playthrough, each map would be randomly generated, the enemies, everything like that. And of course, when you die, you get sent back to a hub where you can then purchase upgrades and upgrade your character if you've saved up enough crystals from doing multiple runs and things like that. So obviously, you get stronger over time, and it's not the type of game that you're going to complete on your first run. And with that out of the way, it brings us into the speculatory spectator sport of speculation. Try saying that 3 times in general. I didn't even get it right the first time. I think that this is going to be a little bit different from Crypt of the NecroDancer. We've seen a little bit of footage of this obviously now, which is why we're talking about it. But by looking at this footage and by going off what Zelda is in the first place, depending how true they actually want to stay to Zelda, some things might change here. Some things might be very different from what they were in Crypt of the NecroDancer. We can see the basic gameplay is going to be the same. There's going to be the same. We're going to be dancing around, getting our beat going. And the combat looks very similar, the same way the weapons used, the enemies obviously everything's based off Hyrule, and the world's based off Hyrule, but apart from that, the game still looks very similar. Or does it? So the reason I had that inflection there was because I believe that this isn't going to be randomly generated. I think they're going to go a little bit tighter to the way Zelda is designed in this game. I think they're going to say, all right, we don't need to have you start from a random or from the first level at the start each time and work your way up from there. I think they're going to say, let's do this is a bit more, maybe not as a story, but it's more of a story progression. So you're going to like just progress through this game. It's not going to be die, start, random generated content. The thing that maybe hints towards that a little bit is the previous game, you had a shovel and it was a lot was based around digging. Like, not that it wasn't dig dug style where everything had to be dug out, but there were, most walls could be dug through so that you could either shortcut your way to other areas or perhaps find stuff in the walls that you didn't know that were there. This game seems to be very much, as you can see, based off Hyrule, and like, while it may not be Hyrule down to a T, I don't see the way it's looking actually being randomly generated. It totally could be, so again, take this speculation as speculation, but it might not be. And to tell you the truth, I kind of hope it's that way. To me personally, I love Crypt of the NecroDancer, and I love the way that was designed, but as a sequel to this game, I would be more excited personally for them to do something different. Like, playing Crypt of the NecroDancer with just the Zelda skin over there, that's exciting, but playing it in its own world and own new design where maybe there's some sort of progression. So like, I'm thinking those portals, maybe they're like a save spot as well. So each time you get one of them, that saves your progress, you make it through to the next one. I'm assuming that those things with the Sheikah eyes on them are portals as well. To quickly jump into that, I have a feeling that those Sheikah eyes, it's basically, each time you touch one, it activates it, and then it's just a portal back to different spots. And kind of hinting towards this is the fact that you see the one next to the shop. So obviously you always want to be able to return to the shop. And then you see like one next to most major places and dungeons and Hyrule Castle and things like that. So I'm guessing there's going to be one in every major location and you just activate it by touching it. So where was I? Yeah, talking a little bit about progression as well. So as you're progressing through this, the way that I would imagine that it would be, because well, now they're taking out that your whole die, you go back and you spend your currency that you've been earning to buy upgrades. Maybe this is just permanent stuff that you can find in the world, which would then have to bring in maybe puzzles. I'm not 100% sure about that side of things, but there would have to be some sort of either stuff that's hidden or something you can get to find your upgrades, find your Master Sword, find your stuff like that, which then also brings into the question, we've seen the Master Sword in there and we've seen other weapons. Is it just going to be like, again, if it's like this type of world, is it just going to be slowly unlocking these things that kind of happens? Are we going to see stuff like the red and the blue armor and those type of upgrades as well? What other items can we see from Zelda come into this? Because there's a lot. There's a lot of Zelda games, and it seems that they're not afraid to borrow from multiple Zelda games. So I'm kind of excited to see what else that they could squeeze into this. Now, one of the big things that comes with randomly generated and the reason it's so enticing, especially to indie developers, or anyone really, is that it brings replayability with it. And I see that if they don't go that route with this, there's a bit of a problem there. There's a hole with the replayability. Well, what are you going to do? Well, what they could do, and it may not be as replayable, but simply we've seen 3 characters there. Why not, like, maybe if they tie them to 3 different playthroughs, that's one way of solving it. Maybe they also have like 3 different difficulties that you're going to try to do it at higher difficulty ratings and stuff like that. I know the original game definitely had different difficulties that you could kind of go through. I forget in what form, but I know there was some sort of difficulty there. Anyway, I'm going to rein it in a little bit there because I've definitely been going on about this randomly generated and not being randomly generated for long enough. But just to kind of finish that note, what I would love for them to see them do is really just basically design a Zelda world inside of this. So maybe have the Link to the Past style, have the light and the dark world. So like, you know, and then the dungeons at the end of each one of these. I think that would be really cool. And to have that sense of progression as someone who loves single player games that have an ending, that would be it to me. I'd love that. Now let's talk about bosses, because we've obviously seen a couple of bosses just from this trailer. We saw the dragon, who's a bit of a xylophone dragon. You notice he's got the things that laying down his back, and even his tail looks like something you'd be tapping on and like go ding, ding, ding on the xylophone. So that's definitely one musical instrument-y type boss that we've seen. And then we've also seen, I don't know the boss's name, but the night boss with all the other knights around it that all have guitars. Like, this is another musical boss. And that's exciting because that basically tells me that their bosses are all gonna be themed around music, which makes total sense because you've got Crypt of the NecroDancer's really big focus around music, obviously, with it. And then you've got like Zelda's really big focus around music because of all like the instruments and you guys know that every Zelda game has a huge focus on music. So combining those two together, it makes sense for these bosses to be really musical and the whole game to be kind of focused around that. So I think what I'm trying to say here is I can't wait to see what other musical bosses they have out there, because if it's anything like what I'm saying earlier, and there could be a light and a dark world with plenty of dungeons and lots of bosses at the end, that'd be really exciting to see what they do with that. So what about the story then? Because this, like, tying back to a Zelda game, could we see some sort of story in there? And I'm gonna kind of end my speculation there because I don't think we will. Honestly, I see they've been given some of the reins of the Zelda series, but as far as like story ties and things like that, I think Nintendo is definitely going to put nope, that's not happening on that one. I think they're just going to say, nah, you can't touch the story. We've given you all these other elements, but stay away from the story. And honestly, the way the timeline is and everything else surrounding that, I probably wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole anyway, especially with the way the adoring fans are, the lovely community. I could just speculate all day on this. Like, is there going to be some sort of 100-floor dungeon? How cool would that be? Like, they bring the randomly generated elements back into it. Have a 100-floor dungeon where you're just going down and down and down. Zelda series love that. And heaps of other stuff that I could go with here. But I'm going to end it there. I think there's too much, and I honestly, we don't know how much of a reign they've given here. Have they just been given the world? Have they just been given like the items in the world and obviously Link and Zelda, and that's going to be it? Or have they given a little bit more of the reins here and said, all right, you have a little bit more rope, go for it? I don't know. I don't know how far they're going to go with this, but I'm really excited to find out. I do just want to kind of close on, again, like as I said multiple times at the start, I'm going to say it again, the word exciting, because that's my favorite word of the day apparently. How exciting this is that they've been given this, because the future possibilities of this type of stuff is really amazing. Like seeing this in Zelda, seeing this in Crypt of the NecroDancer, it just kind of opened my eyes and go, wow, I really want to see Zelda and other Nintendo franchises in so many different things. Like, one, this brings back, this possibly could bring back a whole bunch of dormant franchises that we don't see very often, and they get more time in the light. It may not be made by Nintendo, but hey, I'll take it. I'll take this any day. Like, I was interested in Crypt of the NecroDancer in the first place, and that's why I bought it and played it. But I am way more interested in this because, I don't know, I'm a huge pathetic fanboy, but I am way more interested in this. And I really want to see what else this can accumulate to be in the future. Could we see, like, Mario go into, like, you know, what if, even if they just said, you know what, you've done your Zelda one of the style of Crypt of the NecroDancer, now do a Mario one. If this is super successful, why not? And how cool would that be? Like a Mario one, get these other universes and do stuff like this. And just all the other indies that, like, we could just base a whole one of these about indies and just different indies that they could put different elements of Mario and Nintendo characters into them. Like, there's so much they could do, so much. That's, I'm beyond excited, because that is our word of the day. Speaking of excitement, make sure to jump down below and let me know what you're excited about. And if you enjoyed today's video, why not hit that like button, that subscribe button for me? That'd be really great. And for great Nintendo entertainment, remember, you can count on me. For today's end screen, Nat picked up recently Dust Elysian, the Elysian Tale, and Ukulele, which are both, let's hold them close to the camera for a second, which they were from limited run games, and they took like 8 months to get here, like forever, but they're here. I'm excited. I've played Dust before. That's a really, really good game, actually. I really enjoyed that. And Ukulele, I'm kind of excited to see what that's like, because the internet doesn't stop complaining about it, but I think it's probably not going to be that bad, because everyone else has talked it down so much. So we'll find out. Anyway, thank you